My name is Daphne Broadhurst. I'm a clinical nurse specialist with Infusion Excellence Consulting. In the previous two videos, you learned what the Surefuser pump is and how to safely and cleanly prepare your work area, how to set up your supplies, and flush your IV. Now you're ready to start and stop your Surefuser. This video will provide general information. Make sure that you follow the information your healthcare provider gave you. Let's look at how you'll hook up or start your Surefuser pump when it's time for the medicine. It's important to give the medicine close to the time you were told by your healthcare provider. Your medicine will be more effective if you take it out at the planned times. Look at the pump tubing. The pharmacy will have filled the tubing with medicine. You should check though to make sure that there's no air in the tubing. The filter will remove air bubbles in the tubing from the pump to the filter. However, if you see air in the end of the tubing between the filter and the end of the tubing, you should remove the air bubbles. Twist the cap on the end of the tubing slightly to loosen the cap at the end of the tubing. Open the clamp on the tubing to let the medicine flow. This will push any air out of the tubing. Once the tubing is full of fluid and you see a drop of fluid at the end of the tubing, close the clamp. You've just flushed your IV or PICC to make sure it's working well. Before you connect your pump, you need to clean your IV again. Open another swab wrapper and take the swab out. Scrub the top and sides of your IV cap or the hub for 15 to 30 seconds. Scrub, scrub, scrub. So you'll see Scott scrubbing the end of the cap and the sides of the cap. Let it dry for 15 seconds. Keep holding the clean IV cap. Remember, this is now a no-touch part. Watch to make sure that it stays clean. If anything touches it, you'd have to clean it again. Now pick up the end of the pump tubing. Unscrew the cap from the end of the tubing and just let the cap drop. Now this is important. The open end of the tubing is a no-touch key part that can't touch anything but another no-touch key part. Screw the end of the tubing onto the hub of your catheter. Push and twist gently clockwise until it's snug. Do not over-tighten it. Tape the flow regulator. That's that fat part of the plastic on the end of the tubing. It needs to be taped to your skin. A clear bandage like this works well to make sure that the flow regulator sticks well to your skin. Your skin temperature helps keep the pump running at the right speed. So Scott's just taking the backing off the dressing. It would be easier sometimes when you're using a dressing just to press the flow regulator right onto the dressing, and then he's going to press it against his arm and he's going to smooth that out, and then he's going to just take the cardboard edging off. And then he's just going to press the dressing down on his skin, and that helps to hold the flow regulator in place. Use whatever type of bandage that your healthcare provider showed you. As your chest and abdomen tend to be warmer than your arm, you can tape the flow regulator to your chest or your abdomen for more accurate speed of medicine flow. So now you're ready to open the clamp on the tubing. So he's going to press that open. And now you can see that the clamp is open so that the fluid can flow. But don't forget, he also has a PICC that has a clamp on it. So if your catheter has a clamp, make sure that you open that clamp as well. And now your medicine is flowing. Discard your supplies in the trash unless you were told otherwise by your healthcare provider. And wash your hands. Now, where should the pump be when it's hooked up? Place the pump at about the same height of the IV. Your Surefuser may have come with a carry pouch. If so, you can put it in that pouch. It doesn't have to go in a pouch though. You can carry it, put it in your pocket, in your purse if you're walking around, or the couch beside you, or on your bedside table. Do not put it on the floor or hang it up high, as the difference in height between the pump and your IV will change the speed of the medicine flow. You can now go about your daily routine. Make sure that the tubing though doesn't get kinked or the flow will slow or stop. The pump can stand up, it can lie on its side, that won't affect the flow. You do want to keep it out of heat or cold to help it flow at the right temperature. If you're sleeping, place the Surefuser either near your bed or on it, but above the covers so it doesn't get too warm. You also need to keep the pump dry. So have your shower or bath after the pump is finished if possible. The pump and tubing are water resistant but not waterproof, and they should not be exposed to direct stream of water. There's no swimming while you're hooked up to the Surefuser. And of course, make sure that your IV bandage is covered like your healthcare provider shows you so that it doesn't get wet. While the pump is connected to you, check it occasionally to make sure that the balloon is deflating. This means that you're getting your medicine. You can check the lines on your pump. As the balloon deflates, that blue progression line will move up along the scale to show how much the balloon is deflating. Now let's check in. What do you have to do before you connect your Surefuser to your IV to keep it clean? Hopefully you said scrub the hub and then let it dry. Now name some things that you should do to keep your pump flowing at the right speed. First, you need to take the pump out of the fridge before the next time for your medicine to let it come to room temperature. You need to keep the pump out of extreme heat or cold. In the winter, you would carry it inside your clothing if you had to go outside. You'd also keep it out of the sun. You need to keep the pump at about the same height as your IV site. And check to make sure that the tubing isn't kinked, that you're not sitting or lying on it. How long will it take for your Surefuser to empty? Well, you need to note the time that you started your Surefuser. Your healthcare provider will tell you how long your pump will run, and that really depends on how much fluid is in your pump and which Surefuser you have, as they run at different speeds. You can also check the medicine label on your pump to find out approximately how long it will take. As your medicine flows, the balloon will slowly deflate. This Surefuser on the screen should finish in about an hour. And while the medicine is flowing, you should check to make sure that the balloon is getting smaller, that blue line is moving up on the pump. This means that the fluid is flowing into your IV. This is what a full pump looks like at the start. The balloon will shrink as the medicine flows. When the pump is empty, like the one that Scott's showing you now, the balloon is flat. And you can see that blue progression line is right up near the top of the pump. You know you've received all of your medicine when that pump balloon is flat. When your Surefuser is empty, you need to take the pump tubing off your IV. Before you touch your IV or pump, you always have to wash your hands. First, close the clamp on the Surefuser tubing. Push the white tab down so it pinches the tubing closed. Gently pull off the tape that was holding your tubing against your skin. Now hold your IV cap. It's important to hold this part of your IV cap or connector to make sure that it stays on your IV or PICC. Grab the end of the pump tubing in your other hand. Twist the pump tubing off your PICC or IV cap. You need to make sure that you twist the tubing off and not the actual cap on the end of your IV or PICC. You can set the pump tubing and cap down and set your pump aside. Now you need to rinse the medicine out of your IV. Take the flush syringe out of its wrapper. Tap the flush on something hard so the air bubbles rise to the top. Loosen the cap on your flush. Push on the tail end of the flush to push any air bubbles out. Stop when you see drops of fluid coming out of the flush and there are no more air bubbles in the flush. If you see there is still air in the flush, flick the syringe and push the tail end of the flush until all air is out of the flush. Set it down. If you are told to use 2 flushes, prepare your second flush. We're only using 1 flush here. Open the alcohol swab. Scrub the top and the sides of the IV or PICC cap for 15 seconds or however long you were taught. Let it dry for 15 seconds. This is now a no-touch part. Nothing can touch the clean end but the tip of your flush. If you do touch the clean end of the cap of your IV, you would get another alcohol swab and re-clean it. Take the cap off the end of your flush. This tip of the flush is now a no-touch key part. It can only touch your IV cap. Push and twist the flush onto the IV cap. Push on the tail end of the flush to rinse out your IV. Squirt, squirt, squirt. When the flush is empty, twist the flush off the IV cap. If you were told to use 2 flushes, scrub the hub again with another swab and flush your IV with another flush. If there is a clamp on your IV or PICC, pinch it closed now. Not all types of IVs or PICCs have clamps. You need to protect your IV. You can wrap it up in a stocking. You could use a piece of tape if you wanted to. Remember to never put tape, though, over the bandage. If you're doing what Scott's doing, just make sure that you don't wrap the extension site tightly around your arm, because of course you don't want it to cut off the blood supply to your arm. And now you're done. That's it. You need to throw out the supplies, including the pump, as your healthcare provider showed you, and you need to wash your hands. When it's time for your next medicine pump, you'll do this all again. Don't forget to take your next Surefuser out of the fridge so it can warm up in time for your next dose. Now let's review some key points. When should you take the pump out of the fridge? Make sure you take the medicine pump out of the fridge however long your healthcare provider told you before it's time to do your hookup. What are some things that you can do to keep the medicine flowing at the right speed? Keep the pump around the same height as your IV. Keep the pump at room temperature. If the pump is too high, or if the room is too warm, or the pump is in bright sunlight, the medicine may flow too fast. If the pump is too low, or you go out in the cold, the medicine may run too slow. When the pump is hooked up to your IV or PICC, you should check to make sure that the balloon is shrinking. This means that the medicine is flowing into your IV. You've learned how to use your pump safely. The Surefuser is safe and easy to use. Sometimes, though, it's possible to run into a bit of a problem. In the last video of this video series, you'll learn how to manage problems that you may run into. I'd like to thank CardioMed for their educational grant to support the development of this video. Thank you.